can't make a horse drink. I know, and we've experienced this. We've
Yeah.
experienced this with other team members that we've had here at the Digital Growth Institute. We have experienced this with those in programs that are not on board with the methodologies that we bring. And that's okay.
Mhm.
You can't make a horse drink. This is timeless wisdom. But what does it mean?
It really is. It is our job to try to teach, to model those that we're working, that are on our team. It's important that we do it from a place of, selflessness and not selfishness. You genuinely want to help that other person succeed. But there comes a time where you might realize that you're not getting the return on the relationship. And like you said, that's okay. You cannot force somebody to think or do a certain thing. You can try. You can do the best that you can. You can give them all the resources and the materials and the opportunities. But there comes a time where you might just have to say, okay, I tried. This isn't working. It's time to graduate, part ways,
Mm.
no harm, no foul. It's okay. Um, this one really made me think back to being a teacher
How
and
how did you because I think that's a great example. How did you deal with this? Because this is another growth area for me personally. I give a shit. I really care
yeah,
about the work that we do and who we're helping and why we're doing it. There's no other way for me to say it than just that. I really care with my heart. Now you come from 7 years of teaching too, and I know you experienced students who cared and you experienced students who just they didn't care. How do
yeah.
you because you can like I said, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. How do you deal with this as a leader? Because this is such a human opportunity here.
This was hard, and it took a while for me to understand this, and I think a lot of teachers really struggle with this is, you know, we show up and we do the best that we can for our students, and we plan these exceptional lessons. We work really hard, and we wanna see them do well, and when push comes to shove, when the test comes around or the state test comes around and they don't perform well or they don't maybe care enough to perform well, we have to be okay with that and just
Mm.
let it go. I think possibly a little bit of ego is in there. We assume that, or we believe that our students, their scores are a reflection of how well we taught. And I think that as long as you know in your heart that you are doing the best that you can and you are teaching to the best that you can, I almost don't even want to look at the scores at the end of the day. Like it doesn't matter to me. I know that I did my part and I did my job. And that's just true, honestly. When we're in Texas and we have the state assessment at the end of the year.
Star.
And a lot of times we get our scores back in the beginning of the summer. And gosh, I'd have teachers just calling me in tears because not all their students pass and they just felt horrible and guilty. And I'll be honest with you, the last few years I taught, I didn't even look at the scores because it didn't matter to me anymore. Like, it
Yeah.
wasn't my work here. I felt good about it. I was at peace with it. And I think as long as you know, and only you know, and that's the thing, as long as you know in your heart, you're trying and you want the best, the rest is in their hands. I can't take the test for them.
That's a we started this conversation and we've almost brought this full circle because focus on what you can control. Um, that's what makes us so beautifully unique. And I think a quote you shared with me is quote, ambition means tying your well-being to what others do. Self-indulgence means tying it to the things that happen to you. Insanity means tying it to your own actions. And I think about like that idea, yeah, maybe I am a very ambitious person because I think a lot of, my well-being historically has been based upon helping other people succeed and seeing other people
Yeah.
succeed. But at what point does that become a weight and an anchor because that they can't get to that next level for whatever reason. They don't want to, they don't have the will, the motivation. They just don't care. And that's okay. That's
It is
okay.
okay.
And I think that's where, as a leader, when we're dealing with other people, sometimes, and I've had to experience this now more and more, sometimes we just have to let go. Sometimes we just got to let go
Yeah.
to grow
Yeah.
ourselves and to let them grow too. And
And I
that's
think just
hard.
in general, I think sometimes the energy it takes to hold on
Mm.
at that point, it's greater than the energy it's gonna take to just let them go. Um, you know, at what point are you sacrificing yourself and your well-being because of this desire, this need to make somebody else be even better? It's a hard lesson to learn. I think, in life in general, personally and professionally, you just have to be at peace that sometimes it's just you're not gonna be on the same page, and that's okay.
And that's one of the reasons when we work with financial brands and their teams, I'm very clear up front and I tell them, listen, we're with you until you don't need us.
Yeah.
Because I think this, it's easy to fall into a rut, whether that you're working within a team, within an organization, or you're working through collaboration. It's easy to get into some unhealthy codependency
Mhm.
when you have to be very mindful that A, am I still gaining value through this? B, is the other person still gaining value through this? And then C, if we're both gaining value, what does it mean? We're both continuing to grow together. We're both
Right.
continuing to level up. And your word, and you've said this multiple times, it's awareness.
Mhm.
It's being aware. And to create that awareness means what? We need to create space and time to break free from doing everything, to pause, to review, to reflect, to learn, to think about how we can do even better going forward. Let's get real
Yeah.
practical. How do we do this? Like, what is the one thing that someone who is watching or listening as either a digital leader or they're moving, growing into that digital leadership capacity? What can they do to deal with people in a positive perspective, whether it's being strict with themselves, looking for teachable moments, looking to make quick transitions or quick transformations between different conversations with other team members, or maybe just being mindful that you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. What's the one recommendation you would have for someone watching or listening that they can apply next on their own journey of growth?
So I'm going to go with the most tangible one because many of these are really just mindsets and habits, but look for teachable moments.
Mm.
When something happens, a mistake happens, an error happens, take time to think through, what happened? How could this be even better? What can I do moving forward? What was a lesson here? That way it's not a loss. It's not a complete loss, and just really focus on that. I know we've built that into our habits here. If anything, and not that it's someone's fault all the time, but if anything goes a different direction, we're pretty good about sitting down and talking through it and then making a plan going forward, or, hey, this is a lesson that I learned.
That's exactly right. And that ensures, and this is such an important part to wrap up on, that ensures an individual or you as a leader, you never experience failure again.
Yeah.
You don't. Like, you can eliminate failure from for yourself, you can eliminate failure for your team, you can eliminate failure for your organization when you look at every experience as truly a learning opportunity. And let me tell you, some learning lessons come with a very high cost.
Oh yeah.
I speak from experience, but I'm grateful for those experiences in hindsight and the tuition that I had to pay, because that then allowed me to go and ascend to the next level. So that's a really great practical one. Maybe to build upon that, Audrey, is for someone who is watching or listening, just create space,
Yeah.
5, 10, 15 minutes, no more, and think through an experience that you had that you would perceive as you fell short, you had some type of failure, quote unquote. What's the opportunity to transform that into a learning opportunity to apply that knowledge, to apply that wisdom going forward on your next journey, the next steps you take on your journey as a digital leader? I think that's, now we're getting really practical here.
Yeah.
What's your take
Great.
on that, wrapping up?
No, I think that's perfect. Take that time, start building in those habits moving forward. I think you're so spot on with this idea of failure. Like delete, control alt delete. Failure is not it's not happening if you can learn a lesson from it and find the opportunity.
I always say in the lay household, there are winners and
Yep.
there are learners. There are no losers in
Yep.
the lay household. And I think that's saying this true for us here at the Digital Growth Institute and those that we're working with, those that we're guiding. There are winners, there's learners. We don't have losers, and we don't work with losers. We work with learners. And I think that creates an environment, coming back to what we were talking about in a recent podcast, um, about culture. It's safe. When you
Oh
can
yeah.
eliminate the fear of failure, you create a place and a space that is safe.